So I'm the structural technical lead at A2K Technologies, and this has been presented as well by our marketing coordinator, Dexter Wallace. Just a little bit about our company. So we're in the infrastructure, building, mining, construction, and manufacturing industries. So we do consulting, education, and IT management. Why A2K? We have an excellent Australian-New Zealand footprint. So we're one of the largest Autodesk resellers in the world, and we're considered the business partner of choice by many vendors and clients. We have major software partners such as Autodesk, Microsoft, HP, Unity, and to meet your technology needs. And we strive to exceed client expectations by understanding your challenges and delivering our solutions through our experience and innovation. A little bit about myself. I'm the structural technical lead at A2K Technologies. I'm very interested in business workflow transformation. So really looking at your processes and how to improve them. Software implementation, that's what I do. That's like my day job. I've got 25 years experience in the structural and consulting engineering industry, doing a lot of industrial, commercial, infrastructure, residential projects, both in the design and construction phase. I have been using Revit itself for about 12 years now. I do have a structural engineering associate diploma. I do a lot of presentations and speaker things through the industry, and really want to push that automation. And that's where we're focusing today a lot on the automation that you can get from Dynamo, and particularly in some of the scripts that you should be using like tomorrow to get those efficiencies in your design. So a bit of a rough agenda, what we're going to go to. I am going to aim to go for probably no more than sort of 40 minutes, 45 minutes-ish. We're really targeting this towards both people who haven't used Dynamo at all, and some of those like novice users who have played with it a little bit. I'm trying to find that middle ground between sort of showing you everything you need to know and how Dynamo works, and probably go through that pretty quickly, just in case, obviously, a lot of us may know how to use it. So I want to find that balance between being too fast and too slow. So we're just going to go through the why and when, the basic interface, nodes and how to use them, how to organize Dynamo. One of the important things is how you organize it, so you avoid the bird's nest. We're then going to go through the scripts, and yes, I will put some scripts in the chat that you can take away and use to your heart's content. I'll just go through a live demonstration of a couple of those scripts, and then also give some time for Q&A towards the end. Do feel free, any questions you have, please just put them in the chat, and I'll make sure I review the chat by the end. Obviously, if everyone sort of smashes the chat with a minute to go or something, it's going to probably make it a bit hard. So do put them in sort of as we go as well. So let's get into it. So what's Dynamo? It's basically a visual programming tool, and it works inside Revit. It extends the power of the Revit by accessing the API easier, basically. Instead of coding, so we're sort of going really down into that coding path, you really use these nodes, which give it that more visual appearance, to manipulate your elements within Revit. Now, a common argument as well is using third-party add-ins compared to Dynamo. So there is a real discussion in the industry about, are you better off just using the third-party apps, or are you better off creating your own Dynamo scripts? There is no right or wrong answer. Sometimes those third-party apps, they can do the work very quickly that you would want to do in a Dynamo script. But in creating Dynamo scripts, you also get the knowledge, and you get a bit more sort of how it can work and how you can amend them slightly to do exactly what you want, rather than what someone thinks you want. So there's a big difference. Sometimes, like I'm a big believer in add-ins as well. If you can find an add-in that does what you want it to do, use it. One of our partners is Ideate, and I do use their add-ins quite commonly, like at least once a day, and they sort of really do what I need. Why should we use it? For a few things: BIM management, importing and exporting data with Excel. So that's where you really get into your parameters, instance type, and shared parameters, and you can manipulate them in Excel and push them back and forth between. External model adoption. So that means if you've got someone's model, like an architect's model, MEP model, you can actually bring it in and you can train your code to like pick up certain things that you need in that and then use that information. So like, for instance, you can make sure you're placing columns at every grid intersection and things like that. Computational design. Now, computational design, we're really going into a lot of that space where people are working in that Grasshopper, Rhino, etc. A lot of that can be done directly in Revit. So you can place the points and use that to manipulate families and also use those Rhino models, etc. But you can do it all inside Dynamo. We can also automate a lot of that documentation. So creating your sheets, creating your floor plans, etc. So installing Dynamo, you really don't need to worry too much about installing Dynamo now if you are on anything later than 2020. So I think even one of the updates in 2019 did make it part of the Manage tab. Before, you did need to download it. So there is a link there and you can download it and install that on your Revit. But generally, if you're on anything later than 2019, you don't really need to worry about it. Will come automatically with Revit. We'll just go through a bit of the interface, basically. Just another thing as well, the best thing about Dynamo is that it's open source. So a lot of people have contributed to it. It is quite an active community as well. If you do go to the forums, you will find that there's responses like from today and probably about sort of 10 to 20 responses as well. So it's quite an active community and everyone's always putting up scripts and to help each other. You can actually put a script up and say, oh, what's going wrong? And someone will generally jump up and say, oh, you need to do this or something, etc. The worst thing about Dynamo is that it's open source. So it's the best thing and the worst thing. Because it's open source, it can be quite unorganized and a bit like Google itself. Sometimes it's just too much information and not the information you need. When you jump into Dynamo, this is what you see. You've got your normal menu tabs. You've got your new custom node and open here. So this is where you can create a new script. Create your own custom node where you really need to go into a bit of the Python coding, or you can just open an existing Dynamo script. You will have the previous scripts that you've worked on here. Scripts and graphs, same thing, just different terminology. The forums and websites, like I said, the forums are very active. That's the forums there, if you follow that link. And you've also got a lot of the training stuff on here as well. So they do some training on that. It's generally just some YouTube videos and the like. It's pretty good. We've got our learning references there. So there's the getting started and the Dynamo primer. And like I said, video tutorials all through that reference there. Just remember, I will just jump to Revit quickly. Like I did say, it is under the Manage tab. So you can see if I jump under the Manage tab, I'm in Revit 2022 here. If I do jump to Manage, I can see Dynamo there. Obviously, it's not active at the moment because I don't have anything open, but obviously once I do, I will. And I will just start a new project. Like I said, I will be using this a bit more when I go into the live demonstration, but let's just start a new project. I'll just use the standard structural template. So just to, do a bit of the Houdini, there's nothing up my sleeve, just using the basic structural template and opening that up. Once I've done that, yes, you will see Manage and Dynamo sitting here. I will come to that, back to that later when I start my demonstration. There I was saying about the videos that are under that pass. Like I said, I did just mean to open that up. So if I do go to Dynamo back here, you will see that that is the interface that it opens up on, which is on my other screen, which I'll drag down. So this is the normal interface here that I'm going through. Back to PowerPoint. We've also got the community there. This is where you can really get some sort of Python nodes and things that people are working on. And also if there's any bugs, like I said, it's open source. So if there's any bugs that you do find, do look through there and you can report them and they'll fix them. Generally you get some, so that's the GitHub and the bug. You do get some samples too out of the box. This is the interface once you go and start making a script. So again, you've got your menu tab, same as before. You've got a toolbar. This is the node library. So this is really where it all happens, where you can find the nodes that you want to do. You've got your package manager. Now, I'll explain about packages in a bit. They are quite important. Generally, packages are where people have created a bunch of nodes that will do things together. In other words, you might have had to make a script, and one of the scripts I've got is just creating sheets. So someone's sort of taken that script, bound it all together a bit, and put it in. And basically, compared to like 6 steps of a script, you can just use one of the new modes that come from a package. Again, one of the things about packages is it's open source, and I will show you, it's a bit of a maze, and which one do you use, which one do you need to use, etc. It can be a bit hard to find your way in the packages. That's your workspace there. The caption, that's where you can just take a quick screenshot. Like I said, it is a bit active community, so you can just caption, take a quick screenshot of your script and easily just put that on the forum for people to comment or have input. You've got a graph 3D preview toggle here. This is more so if you're doing object placement and things like that and actually using it in a geometric sense. Generally, you will just use the graph view. And you've got your navigation, zoom and pan, etc. there. Execution bar, quite important. I generally use it under manual. I think that's a good tip just when you are starting out in Dynamo to make sure that it's manual. Basically, it executes the script. So it is, if it is automatic, as you are creating the script, it's basically actioning that script in your project, in your Revit project. So I generally have that set to manual. As you get more experience, you do use it on auto a bit just to like save running it every 5 seconds. So you do sort of use it in automatic and basically play with the script to see what it is doing in Revit. But generally it's a good idea to have it on manual. These are the nodes. And just to go back to it, so you've got the ports here lacing single nodes and you've got a connected node there. So this one at the top is just a single node by itself. And this is where they're connected with the connections. It's made up of nodes. Nodes are joined together to form a graph or, like I said, Dynamo graph, Dynamo script. Same diff. I don't know why everyone keeps calling it different things. Like a model and a project in Revit, I suppose. So the definition does run from left to right, from the imports to the output ports. So that connection will be all connected together to another node to basically do the whole script. Now to just show that in basically real world area, so I'm just going to come here and just create a new script. Again, I know I'm going through this pretty quickly if people are using it for the first time. So I can just double click to put a code block in. That's just where I can put anything, text or even like a string of text, or even start to put in formulas. So I can even sort of have, 3 times 15 or something like that if I chose to. So that's just a simple code block. It's come up with warnings because I don't have the steps in it. And there we go. So that's good to go. Again, there's a lot of different inputs or even Revit math and things like that in here. So I can go through and use the scripts and basically just select that one and then take these inputs into that just by simply selecting and then putting them into the right path. And then getting a list or something, generating that list. And you can see how I can now take that into there. So that's just a very simple script. Doesn't make a lot of sense, that one. but you do get the inputs and the outputs, and so it's expecting a Boolean, so a true or a false, and it's pushing out true or false, and it's going into an item. So it doesn't really make much sense, this graph, but that is just a simple way to start one. There's node states. So as you saw before, when I first did that script, because I didn't have the steps in it properly, did put up a warning. So you do have your normal active one, which is a bold one, a gray one, which is inactive, an error state, a frozen node. Frozen nodes are quite a good way if you need to go between, if you are using it in automatic, you can basically make a node frozen. And if you do that, it will stop the calculation at that point. So just going back to Dynamo here, you can see at the moment it's in automatic, and I can just select and change that to manual. And I do get that run button up there. But if I did have it on automatic, I could literally select this node here and freeze that node, and it will freeze the script at that point. So you can see how nothing will go like past that point. So it's frozen that node. So obviously you'd use a frozen node if you were having it automatic. If you had it manual, you would have no use for frozen nodes. You've got a selected node. So you can see when you select it, it goes blue, and the connectors go blue. You've got it's not an error state, it's just a warning. It's generally just highlighting that something's coming in it's not expecting. For here, like I said before about the Boolean, you can see here, this is a point by coordinate, so expecting an X, Y, and Z. You're giving it a color, which you've actually said is a number. So it's going, or something's a bit wrong here. So that's where it will flash at yellow. And that one there is the background previews off, which to be honest, I have rarely, if ever, used. The preview windows. So if you hover over any node in the node library, it brings up this preview window. It really just tells you what it's doing, what sort of inputs it wants, what output it's going to give, and it gives a helpful little icon as well. Now, you do need to make sure that you get the correct node for the right job. This is probably the $64 question in Dynamo. It's, you know, you're much better to go slower to get there faster, to get the right node for the right job. You'll see the description, the icon, etc., and the output ports. Now, the description is important, and whoever writes the nodes, you can create your own node. You should always try and be very descriptive about what it does. There are commonly very subtle differences where you might have create a surface by lofting, or you might have create surfaces, both of which will be fundamentally different and have fundamentally different outputs. So do be aware, sometimes the naming, and even sometimes just depending on, like the node may sound exactly the same, but you'll see the input is a bit different, and you'll know if you've got a curve or a line. Just as an aside, when you're dealing particularly in a lot of geometric stuff, basically a line is a curve. A line sort of is always implying it's going to be straight, where a curve, it's a bit more, you know what I mean, a bit more fluid. So generally, like lines are curves, curves are lines. Dynamo's got the three main descriptors. So you can see here, it's a create, it's an action, and a query. So they're the three different ones you get. Again, if I just jump back to Dynamo, you'll see here the three nodes under here. Now, one thing when you are working a lot with Dynamo, you'll use the search a lot. It's generally quite easy to go into here and just put a search in, and then you'll get all the options. You can see again, you've got generally a lot of action, a couple of create, and a query as well. Again, you can see if I hover on it, I get that description, icon, input, output. So the basic workflows, you have your graph. So you get from an input to then manipulating that data and then going to the output. That looks pretty simple. Usually it's a bit more like this, where you've got the inputs, you manipulate, and it's a lot of manipulation. And finally, you get your output. Generally, all the graphs have that form where you're going from input to output, but the manipulation can go a bit all over the place. And you end up with this, which is the Dynamo bird's nest. Even if you knew, or if you created this script, you would still get a bit confused and go, well, what's going where? So this is why generally someone come up with a plan to organize it, and everyone generally does this system. It does, or a version of it. So you can group the nodes and you can color the nodes. You may have your own company input color or to Revit, etc. You can generally make up your own standard, but it's a good idea to really have it like that. So you can see how that looks a lot more ordered. I can see where the colors are. I can see the information as well, compared to something like that. So again, quite simple to group them. I can just select the two nodes, right click, and I can create a group, and I can put in the title. So I'm not going through a lot of the commands here, like just control and right click and things like that, and right click to change the color, and I could change that to whatever I wanted to. You can create a new note as well. So you can do a note and put those in as well. So you can see how that's a lot more ordered. We've sort of got some notes in here about it, and then going through the different paths to get to our output. So areas for script use. Yeah, so we're really looking at the documentation. So that's where you can really get your sheet creation and management, being able to place legends on multiple sheets, creating those sheets. So all your documentation features, this is where you can really get that efficiency and where there's easy gains to get. Modeling, so you can use room data in an Excel form, or even just from an architectural model. You can then use that to create floors. You can use a linked model to create or place items. You can also do complex modeling and family placement. Now, this is where I was talking a bit before about sort of using Rhino and Grasshopper and that. A lot of that you can do in Dynamo itself, and placing of complex families. So if you were going to do sort of bridge families, you'd basically have a bridge or sort of even a roof frame or something that may change, where you're really getting into your parametric. So you can put all that parameters in the family and then place those nodes through Dynamo to basically create that project. Bin management, things like batch upgrading your Revit families, changing your family types by name, creating work sets. Another great one of the free scripts I'll give you today is a clash detection one, that where you can basically get your Navisworks clashes, the Excel out, and you can actually place a clash spear on where they are located. Quite a good valuable one that I use a fair bit. Now we get to the fun part. I know you all just want me for my scripts. So I told you I'd give you some free scripts and I'll walk you through it. So the scripts I'm going to give you, and I will put them in the chat, go for your life, use and abuse as much as you want to. We've got 8 scripts today. The 3 I'm going to sort of demonstrate are creating floor levels, grid lines and sheets. So they're the 3 that I'm really going to go through today. Do give me a moment just to go to my scripts, and I will copy all those into the chat, and I'm sure after half of you grab them, you'll all jump straight out of this meeting. So I've put them in. Do let me know if you're having any issues or you don't get them. There are 8 scripts in total. The names aren't going to match what I've got here. So I've got create levels, which is obviously creating our floor levels from Excel. We have our create and auto dimension grid lines, which is my grid configuration. .dynamoscript.dyn is the extension. Our Navisworks clash detection into Revit, which is one of my favorites. is our new clash detection underscore A2K. Our export instance and type parameters to Excel. That is our select elements into Excel. So I'm usually just using a select element. So it's really up to you what elements you want to get out, whether instance parameters, etc. It's up to you. We do have create sheets. We've also got batch upgrade Revit files, which is the bulk upgrade Revit files. It's not upgrading the Revit families as such. It will upgrade your Revit projects or models through a graph or script. Check for imported CAD files. So that's quite a valuable one as well. If you've all been using Revit for a good time, you do know that you should get a slap on the back of the wrist every time you are importing CAD. You should always link your CADs. People import them. You probably need to find them, get rid of them, purge them out. This one will do that. It'll basically give you a Excel of basically what the imported CADs are and where they're located, so that you can then delete them. Some of these scripts can be used in combination with each other. Just lastly, yeah, we do have that text to uppercase or lowercase, which is the uppercase.dyn script. Some of these can be used in like combination with each other, like I was saying before. So you could technically use your, and I do have a script where I've got this, I'm just not giving it out today. Please pay attention for a future webinar. I do have one where I actually create the sheets, and I also use the floor levels to create the floors. And then I actually place those levels onto the sheets. So you can sort of use them together. That's what a lot of people do as well. So now I'm going to get into it and basically show a couple of these scripts and how they work. So the first thing I'm going to do is just close this script that I started to create before. Just before I do that, I will show you the packages. So you can see here that I do have a couple of packages. Funnily enough, I have sort of cleaned this out a little bit, so I probably don't have as many as I normally would. We do have some packages here. Now, which package do you need for which thing and all that? It's a minefield. I'll just show you some of the packages. So if I actually do a search for a package, it's probably going to take 2 minutes just to come up and sync with the server. It should be pretty quick. And yeah, you'll just see, like, basically you can see the slider here and you can literally see how many packages there are. And there's mountains of them. And you even get some of this lovely stuff like a 111 script, which was made by someone, and it's, description 111, keyword 111, version 111. So you do get a bit of nonsense in here as well. Like I said, one of the good / bad things is that it's open source. So you can publish your own script or package. So you can publish a new package up yourself. And that's what people do. There are some that people use every day. There's quite some popular ones in that. You'll just find that there'll be some nodes in some of these where it actually has a lot of the nodes in together, where people have compressed some of the Python programming in the one thing. So you can sort of get a bit of a description. This one looks pretty good. I mean, they've actually given a pretty decent description of what it is. So they're your packages. The packages that you installed, you can simply download and install it. It'll put it in your add-ons here. Generally, most of the scripts I've sort of given out don't use a lot of the packages because I just like to keep them simple. You can generally do sort of 80% of everything you need to do without using packages. Some of the packages have come in and they really supersede some of the stuff in the basic ones here, or they work better. So people use the packages. I'm just going to simply close that script and I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to open up one of the ones I'm going to demonstrate. So the first one I'm going to demonstrate is actually the create levels. First of all, is the first one I'm going to use. So this is creating levels. It's using an Excel file to do it. So you can see the script here. I probably could have spaced that out a little bit better. You can see I haven't colored it and things like that. Probably should have. So we're looking for the Excel to show you the Excel that I'm using as well. If I just go back to my directory here. So I've got my levels and plans in here. So this is the one I'm using to create those levels. Just a pretty simple Excel. So I've just called it levels, basically put in level 1, 2, etc. Just to show there's nothing up my head, as they say. I'll just make another level 10 and I'll make that at, say, let's make it at 42. So I've got a fair few levels in there. Now, like I said, this runs on top of Revit. So I did start, you probably saw me before, I did start just a normal Revit project here. Now it has already got level 1 and level 2. So just so I avoid interfering with them, I'm going to literally delete level 2. So I'm just going to go to like a south elevation or something, just delete out level 2. And I'll also rename my level 1 to ground, just so it doesn't interfere with what I'm going to bring in. I am aware I've still got the analytical there. I could probably delete it. Let's just leave it. And like I said, this script, all I need to do now is really point it to my Excel path. So select that, go to my levels and plans XLS. Always a good idea to make sure I save it. So Control S on my Excel just to make sure it's saved. Generally, it's a good idea to close it as well, but I'll just leave it open. And open that, and now it's pointing to that Excel. It's taking that file and taking that. It's making sure it reads the levels. So this is where the sheet name, the name of the worksheet. So you can see on my Excel, I've named it levels here. So it's taking it from that sheet. It's then making a list of that data, getting the first item and the last item, and then it's got this level by elevation and name node. And that's where it's creating the elevation, which is the last item in the list, and it's giving it the name from the first item. Then it's creating a floor plan, a ceiling plan, and a structural plan. Let's run it. Just to, again, nothing up my sleeve. I always find it's a good idea to cross everything too, which I am doing. And there we can see, boom, boom. Obviously that's the analytical, which is actually the ground, which I should probably delete. You can see now I've created all those levels quite simply and got the plan for each one in literally 2 seconds. So that's created all the levels. The script is basically an action item. So if I did go to my undo, you can literally see it's an undo. Like so, that's the script there. So it is actually one command which I could delete or do. I could undo it. It is a one step. I'm not going to undo it. Let's do another one. So that's that one. Quite a valuable one. Use that tomorrow. Create levels. New one. I'm going to start. Sorry, excuse me. I'm going to open. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to now create my sheets. So go to sheets and open. So this one actually creates sheets. You can see here I've actually got some notes in it. It's a good idea to put these notes in. Just have who created it. I got 2 years. It's gone quick. File location. You can put in like some information in here as well. It's going through all that, and you can see I've actually grouped it and then put on. It always helps. You can sort of see from the last one when it was pretty much just the nodes with no real description. It's a good idea to put these notes in, particularly, sharing it with your work colleagues or whatever that don't know what's happening. So you can really put, if you want to remove the X amount, like remove this, or things like you need to flip the information, and really walking people through it and telling them what it's doing. Again, This is working off an Excel script or an Excel sheet, not a script, sorry. So you can see it's asking for that Excel. So again, I'm just going to browse to that Sheets one. Just to show you what's in that, I will shut this one down. And just to show you, yep, level 10 should be in there at 42 meters. Let's have a look. There we go. So just going to close that Excel one, and I'm going to open up the next Excel one, which is my Sheets. If I double clicked on it, you can see I've got drawing sheets here as the worksheet name, sheet number, sheet names, view name. Again, let's just for the fun of it, let's just put in another few here. And this is the 9th sheet. I'll just make sure I put the levels on. I don't think I need that for this script. And let's use that Excel sheet now. So back to my node here, browse to that sheet. Select it and open. I can see how it's not actually saved it. So good idea to come back and again, just hit save. Now I should see that that has updated and point to that. One thing you do need to do on this, you do need to make sure that you are giving it the family. So you can see here, we need to extract what title block and what view is needed. So I've definitely highlighted the purple ones as the node ones that you need to change. Not going to go through all this, but you can see here I'm making sure I've got that right sheet name as well. That's reading that sheet name. You can see these ones, because they're in italics, it means that they do have a default value. You can see if I hover on it, it's coming up the default value. So that's why they don't have an input, where normally everything does need an input, but because they're in italics, it's an optional input. Come here and change my input or the family type to obviously my sheet type, which is my A1 metric. It is reading the families available in the project. So I'm just making sure I give it the right sheet there. This one here, it does need a view to place on the drawing. It's not a perfect node, this. There is only one view in the view list, so only one view will be placed on one sheet. It's sort of not perfect. It is what it is. Again, there's no nothing in my hat or nothing up my sleeve. Going back to the project, you can see here at the moment I have 0 sheets. Go back here, hit run. I did get a warning. So you can see here I've got something, operation value can't be none. But here we go. There you go. I obviously didn't have everything crossed. Value can't be none. Yep, so it's got all the values there. The joys of a live demo, hey? The views, I'm sure it had. I must have accidentally clicked that out. I think that's the issue. Let's run it again. There you go. Look, even solve something on the fly. Generally, yes, if you do get a warning node, it means it's missing an input. And you can see, I don't know, for some reason, I think I must have clicked in it and not hit one in there. But now we can see it's created the sheets. And yes, all our sheets. Like I said, it only places one view on one sheet. Unfortunately, the script, it's not perfect. So it's put one view on one sheet, but it has created all my other sheets. So that's 2 reasonably simple scripts that you can use tomorrow to basically set up your sheets and set up your plans. Like I said, there are a few good scripts out there where you can sort of get them to place the views on the right sheet, etc. Like I said, now in 2022, you can duplicate sheets, as we know. So sometimes, like it is, you know, this is one of the good new features in 2022, which we couldn't do last year. So lastly, just the last one I'm going to show is basically just creating a grid. Now, I do have this set up in my Dynamo Player. So I'll just touch on Dynamo Player a little bit. I am aware that the time's nearly getting away from us. There's a lot to show in Dynamo. So the Dynamo Player really just makes scripts very approachable for people. You don't need to know Dynamo to be able to use the player. Now, in that is where you can basically shortcut or provide the link to the scripts, and people can just come in and simply open up Dynamo Player. And this is what they will see. Now you can see I have that grid configuration, the one I'm going to use here, and I can simply hit play here. I don't need to open the script. Now I do currently have a script open that I haven't sort of saved or completed. So it's always a good idea to close this. Otherwise it's going to halt because it's going to have this one open and it's not going to be able to open it. So I'm just going to close that and I'm not going to save it. So just back to my normal Dynamo interface there. Now you can it is simply a matter to use this Dynamo Player. I can actually browse to the folder and browse to a new location, or I can actually open up the existing location. So I can view the current folder and view my folder here. Now, this is just path to somewhere on my directory, somewhere where I always use it. You can put it anywhere you want, but simply to put any script in here. So I'm just going to go and find one of the ones I put in our chat today. So if I go in here and go to my scripts, and let's grab my select elements to Excel, you can see that that one currently isn't there. So I'm going to grab from here, grab that select elements into Excel. So I'm getting too much stuff in the way here, and simply drag that or copy that into that directory. So it's in there, and I can refresh this folder. You can see at the moment that that one isn't here. And if I refresh that, you will now see it's put that in here. So that is how you can simply put a script into your Dynamo Player. So the one I'm going to show is my grid configuration. Now we can edit the script. You'll see there's a little pencil there to actually take you into the script and edit it. Again, you don't need to do that. I can just simply select this to change my inputs. That'll bring down the inputs. What this is doing in the background is actually opening the script. Now you can see I can change my inputs. So this is all the inputs it's asking for. So instead of doing that in Dynamo, I'm doing it in the player. So I can change my building length. I'm going to leave it at 50 meters, but you can obviously change it to like 40 meters if you wanted to. Let's just leave it at 50. Whatever, okay, I'll make it 40. Distance between your grids in the X direction, 4 meters. Distance between in that Y direction, 4 meters. Let's make that 5 meters. My building width, 24. Probably a good idea to make that a multitude of 5, seeing that my my distance between grids is 5. So making sure I try and match up my Y with my width. Offset from origin, -10, whatever, I can have it at 0. Again, what view I want the grids on. I can also dimension it. I do have a little note here just for this script in particular. Run it in false and then run again in true to dimension those grids. And instead of going into Dynamo at all, I can simply play from here. Again, if I go back, you'll see if I go to level 1, I have no grid. Simply hit play. It's created my grid. It's given me my width and my length. Let's put some dimensions on it as well, just to see how that all works, or to basically prove that it's matching these distances, and hit play again. It's giving me the distance, 40 meters long, at 4 meters and 5 meters high for 25 meters. It has only put them on level 1. If I do go to like an elevation, I'll just close the player now. If I do go to an elevation, I'll see that they're short grids, but yes, nothing to stop me from simply dragging them up. And I'll have those grids on every level. Probably need to do it in the west direction as well. And if I go to level 7, just a random level, you'll see that that's got those grids as well. So you can really see how that can change. Someone just put a comment in there. Can you update the input live? Yes. Now, generally Dynamo does work sort of live. So if I went back to my player as such here, and I went back to that grid one, and I even just changed the outputs now, let's just make it 50 and play. You'll generally find that it will override what's in there. So you'll see how, again, I probably need to rerun it again to get the text in there. So if I run it again, if I should just be able to run that again, and it did come up with a few errors, so probably need to, but generally it won't change the grid, like it won't keep what you did before. So if I do a measurement here, you'll find that it's 50 meters or 52 because I put in 50, which is interesting. Yeah, it won't sort of, it gives everything an element code, and when it changes it, it puts in the new element. It basically overrides the previous element codes. That's one thing with Dynamo. When you're updating particularly geometry and stuff, it will override what you had in there before. There is a bake node. I believe it's not an out of the box one. I think it's in a package. And you can basically get that one. As we've seen, yeah, the dimensions will disappear. It did override that totally. So those dimensions have disappeared. But I could bake the previous node to just make sure that it won't overwrite what's in there. Sometimes another workaround for that is you can actually create a group. Just say, for instance, if I needed 2 buildings, 2 grids in there, and I needed to keep the old ones, a good sort of workaround, don't tell everyone, is that you can actually select all the previous stuff that you do want to keep and create a group out of it. Then you can run the script again, which will create the new grids, and then you can simply bring in the old group, which will bring up the old ones you've got as well. So that's a workaround that I've used a bit. Probably not the cleanest and probably not best practice, but it is effective. And there is a bake node as well, which people do use to retain the old geometries and the like. Someone else just if you want to put any questions in, this is probably a good time. So any questions that people have, do hit them in now. If you've got any questions, it'll probably take me a couple of seconds just to go through the rest of it. So if you've got any questions, I do put them in the chat now. Someone was asking, I did see before, so is Dynamo an Autodesk product, even though it is all open source? Yeah, it's a bit of a, so I don't know the reason for that question. Maybe you're asking for sort of, so it's not an Autodesk product per se. It is an open source product and it's not owned by Autodesk. And in saying that, Autodesk don't support it. So if you rang Autodesk and said, oh, Dynamo's playing up, this is where it falls in that funny crack between sort of an add-in and not their product. So any support you need is generally done through the Dynamo side. So it's not through that. Can we create a workflow in linking Revit models from BIM 360 for automation? Yes. You can get it to reference BIM 360 models and bring them in. because it's from BIM 360, you'd probably need to do something with the part. I'm not sure if there is a node exactly for bringing in those BIM 360 models. You may need to download them onto a local or a network server. Just not sure about that workflow in particular. I could obviously look at that for you. I'll probably note that down as a good idea for future reference. Maybe tune into a future webinar and see if I've managed to sort that out. Can you run Dynamo graphs in inactive files? So yeah, so that's that bulk replace family. So yes, basically is the answer to that question. You can. So one of the scripts I did send through is the updating Revit projects. So it doesn't need to actually some of the scripts they go through and they open it and they do it. And so it's really like almost like a macro that's running in Revit. So it's a bit funny, even though they're technically inactive, it is opening the file, making the changes and then closing it. So that's really how the update one works as well. It does actually open the file, update it, and then close it down. Thank you, everyone. And it looks like I had pretty good retention rate. So it looks like most of you have stayed on and it's been interesting enough. Do reach out if you need anything else. Always happy to help. And like I said, I'm more in this consultant role now. So it's always great to hear the bottlenecks that you're hitting and that I can try and solve them. Always glad to hear too, if anyone's got any scripts or anything that they want me to have a look at, do put it in the forum, like I said, the Dynamo forum, but do feel free to hit me up directly as well and say you've got this fantastic script, etc. Hopefully everyone got a fair bit out of it. It is a bit difficult knowing that some people may know Dynamo and found it a bit basic, but not making it too high level so that everyone's sort of got a fair bit out of it. Just going, do I have a workflow that can tag a specific element in different views? Yes, I do. Probably don't have it at hand. Maybe send me an email, Joel. Thank you, everyone. Any link to videos for a total beginner? Yes, do hit up the Dynamo primers, probably the spot to go to. So if you do go to your Dynamo primer under your Dynamo interface, it's got heaps of good videos. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good rest of the week.